Sometimes even good people can make a mistake. And when it happens, it's one of the most intense and emotional experiences of your life. It could be a DUI, or maybe you were in the wrong place with the wrong people at the wrong time. Or perhaps you just did something stupid at the spur of the moment without even thinking, and now you're in trouble with the law. Well, you need experienced legal help right away so you don't become a victim of the criminal justice system. Even good people can make a mistake, and if you, a friend, or a loved one has been accused of a crime, don't make another mistake by hiring the wrong attorney for the kind of help you need. You need to visit toddjohnslaw.com. That's toddjohnslaw.com, and then call Attorney Todd Johns today. Attorney Todd Johns has decades of experience helping good people like you who have made mistakes or bad decisions and will stand by you every step of the way. toddjohnslaw.com.
That's Enough Friday podcast, and we're here with Linda Giovanna Zambanini. Is that correct, Linda?
Yes, so.
All right.
Right.
How you doing? Great background. I love the background.
Thank you. That is where my family's from, in Italy, in the Alps.
Nice.
So
So let's just start with a quick bio of yourself and how you got into JFK research.
okay, well, I was 7 years old when Kennedy was assassinated, and I remember every second of every minute of every day for that entire 4-day weekend. I just plopped myself in front of the TV after they sent us home from school, and I saw Ruby assassinate Oswald on live TV, and so from a young age I was and I knew there was something up with that when that happened, even though I was only 7, maybe because I watched a lot of crime shows or something on TV. But
Sure.
anyway, so starting in college then, I started about 1975. I started looking into the assassination and reading books and so forth, and studying it and being interested in it. And then there were probably many years when I didn't do much with it because I was so busy with other things, with school and so forth.
Sure.
And then maybe in the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, I've really gotten into researching, and I have a couple niches. One is I identify people in the photo and film record, and I'm really active in this group that Dennis Morissette has. He's a Canadian researcher, a Quebecois JFK researcher. He has this Facebook group called JFK photos and films in the JFK assassination, or maybe it's just the opposite. But anyway, it's a very popular group, and I do a lot of work with him and identifying people in the photo and film record.
Okay.
And then because of that, I identified a lot of people that Bart Campton used for his Prayer Man research to eliminate the Texas School Book Depository employees, because even before he came up with his Prayer Man book and the whole theory he put together, I was identifying the ladies in front of the school book depository, because there was an education forum group that was trying to identify the people in front of the depository, trying to identify Roy Truly, where was Roy Truly, and so forth. And anyway, so I was really involved in that, and I identified a whole bunch of people, and I'm cited in his book when he eventually wrote Prayer Man More Than a Fuzzy Picture, and cited in his book for my identification work, and in his Prayer Man video. So that's a major niche of mine, is identifying people in the photo and film record. And then about 2012, I think it might have been 2013, see, Sherry died. Sherry came out with her book in 2012. So it was around 2012, I think. Sherry was in this private Facebook group with myself and a bunch of others, Deb Galantine, and Phil Dragoo was one of them, I remember. He made some graphics. Anyway, we had a private closed group trying to figure out where did the shots come from on the South Knoll. And anyway, so I started looking, I'm like, Sherry Fiester had said, the shot came from the South Knoll, the headshot came from the South Knoll. That's what she said. And so I'm like, well, but she didn't know from where,
Right.
over there somewhere. So I went looking, and because I was so involved in identifying people in the photo and film record I knew that there were only two sources of photos or film capturing the South Knoll. And that was the Couch film by Malcolm Couch, who was a ABC, WFAA ABC photographer, who was in car 3, I think it was. I have it written down here somewhere. I always get those guys mixed up. Let's see. Couch was in camera car 3, yes. Okay, so he stayed in camera car 3 and jumped out then down by the triple underpass eventually, but he kept rolling film, and he swung his camera wildly across the South Knoll. His capturing of the South Knoll was only like for a second or two, just fleetingly. Okay, so I knew there was that. It wasn't much. It was really crappy footage, very fuzzy. It's still, the best copies we have are still very fuzzy.
Right.
And I'm sure the real one's locked away somewhere. Kind of like Dell and Wegman.
Yeah.
And, okay, so there was that film record, and then there was the Cancelare film. People say Cancelare. Frank Cancelare was a UPI photographer, very famous White House photographer, press photographer, and he captured several pictures in the plaza that day. But he was in camera car 2, and he jumped out of camera car 2 right at the top of the street and ran down to the knoll, and he started taking pictures of people laying on the knoll, like the Newmans laying on the knoll, protecting their children, Bill and Gail Newman, and on the grassy knoll.
Right.
Not the South Knoll. And anyway, he was taking pictures, and I think it was one of the final pictures he took, or next to the final picture he took, was of them, but in the background, incidentally, he captured the South Knoll. Okay, so those are the only 2 pieces of photo and film record we have that capture it. So first of all, I spent a lot of time playing with the Couch film. I tried finding the very best copies of the Couch film I could find online, which, I started out, I had this really horrible copy. And then I kept finding better and better copies. And not great copies, but better and better. And since it was only for a second or two that he filmed across the South Knoll, I had to tap my space bar really rapidly to stop the film. And I did this like a zillion times. And until I captured, pictures of this, I would do screen grabs of the South Knoll. And the first screen grabs I had were from this really crappy film. And all I could see were these white dots over there. I'm like, okay, somewhere over there lies the shooter. Where is he? Is he in a hidden vehicle? Is what I was thinking. I think people in this group I was in were thinking, well, maybe there's, a vehicle over there that he might be in, shooting from. And anyway, so all I could see were these white blobs, and I actually circled them, and I still have that old picture where I circled all those white blobs. But then I kept getting better and better versions of the Couch film, and was able to tap my space bar better to like stop it, freeze frame it. And finally I noticed this thing, this boxy, what I have determined is a USPS ZipVan. Okay.
ZipVan, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's some sort of van, I'm like, what is that big boxy thing? First I had a kind of a blurry version. I could see it was, just this big boxy thing. I'm like, what could that be? Under tree number 2. Now, when I say tree number 2, there were like 4 big trees across the South Knoll, starting tree number 1 right by the end of the triple underpass. And then
Bill could bring up picture number 3.
This photo number 3, actually, I got from a Dutch researcher, Perry Vermeulen, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. Anyway, it is a copyrighted picture, but he gave me permission to use it because it is the best picture I've found so far capturing Dealey Plaza and the curve in Elm Street, which is very important to this whole concept. And the South Knoll in the background. And you can see the X's on the street where the throat shot was. They've, researchers over the years, Grodin has put X's on the street where the throat shot and the head shot were where they happened. And you can see those X's when you blow this picture up. So, and you can see the curve, and you can see how the limo was at the time of the head shot and the throat shot was pointing actually toward Commerce Street. It was not pointing down Elm Street. And that was the key thing about Sherry's research, is she was the first one to ask, where is front? Because the Zapruder film is so cropped off, it gives you this optical illusion that the front of the limo is going straight down Elm Street, and it's going to go straight under the underpass on Elm Street. In fact, the limo was pointed, the nose of the limo was pointed toward Commerce Street, the triple underpass arch on Commerce Street.
Right.
Okay, so this picture number 3 here captures the best overview of that layout. So you can see that. So anyway, I lost my train of thought now.
Well, let's get into the whole your whole South Knoll theory. Let's start right at the beginning. So, and what interests me, Linda, is when you first sent me all this, I was working on an episode for Bob Mayhew that's coming up, but then I was also working on another one for Mitchell Warbel. And a lot of people suspect, and I agree with them, that Mitchell Warbel probably supplied the weapons used in the assassination. I think there's a great probability there.
We agree.
He was the CIA's gun manufacturer, basically, gun supplier.
That's
and
right.
The thing that caught my attention was how you said the Grassy Knoll gunman could have been a distraction for the getaway for the South Knoll gunman, which was the real gunman. And that, where Bell used his claim to fame was creating suppressors and silencers for automatic weapons, for sniper rifles. And if the Grassy Knoll sniper is using, or I'm sorry, the South Knoll sniper is using a suppressor, and then the Grassy Knoll is using another weapon that's designed to create a loud noise, because a lot of people said that the Grassy Knoll was louder than normal, correct? And that would lead a lot of people, that's why people were running towards the Grassy Knoll. And that leads for the escape for the assassin that's on the South Knoll, which we know in these operations, they do things like that. With the RFK case, Sirhan was a distraction and stuff like that. So that's what got me really interested in this. And let's start at the beginning. So it starts with this fellow Buchanan, right?
Right. Okay, so Thomas Giddings Buchanan, he was an American. I think he lived in around DC or the Beltway area or Maryland. And he was one of the very earliest JFK assassination researchers, and he was also, as far as I can find, the earliest proponent of what is now known as the South Knoll shooter theory, although he didn't call it that. Okay, he wrote a book right off the bat called Who Killed Kennedy, and it was published January 1st, 1964. It was like one of the very first assassination books. And in it, he was the first one to posit this South Knoll theory, although if you go to his book, which is available for free, by the way, on the Internet Archive, and you can search it, you can word search it. Okay, well, I didn't have the actual book, but I went to the Internet Archive and I searched it, and I kept looking for South Knoll, Grassy, whatever, actually, I'm not even sure if the term Grassy Knoll was in use yet, but anyway, I kept using all these terms to try to find where is that in this book quickly. And finally, I typed in overpass, and that's what he called it. He said somebody was on the overpass. This was his term for the South Knoll, on the south end of the overpass. That's where he thought somebody was down there with a rifle. Okay, so he was the very first one to come up with any kind of South Knoll theory. And he was a socialist / had voted communist in earlier elections, I think in the 30s or 40s or something.
Right.
And so he was an expatriate, and they were bothering him, because he was coming up with all this JFK assassination conspiracy stuff.
Right.
So he expatriated to France, and that's where he died. So anyway, so he was the very first one to come up with such a theory. And then, what do I want to say?
Sherry
Sherry
Fiester.
came along in 2012 and wrote her book, Enemy of the Truth. And
Right.
she was a forensic, investigator for courts for murder cases, and
Right, in Maryland, right?
had her expert in like 3 states. I think it was Texas, Louisiana, and Alabama. I haven't written.
Okay.
But anyway, she wrote her book in 2012, and she said that the headshot came from the South Knoll, and it was over there somewhere. She was the first one to ask the question, where is front? Because the Zapruder film is cropped off. If you look at it, especially in the later frames when you get to the headshot, okay,
Right.
totally cropped off. So you just see the car and maybe a tiny bit of the grass and some people's feet in the background that are in the Dealey Plaza, but you don't see where the car is in space. And it gives you this optical illusion that's coming straight down Elm. It's going to go straight under the Elm archway on the triple underpass. And in fact, it's pointed toward the South Knoll, basically.
Linda, just give our listeners just explanation on the grassy knoll and the South Knoll, just so they understand.
Okay. The famous grassy knoll, I think most people know where that is, but
Sure.
the north side of the plaza.
Right.
In the South Knoll, nobody paid any attention to it, basically. I mean, I think Buchanan, didn't get a lot of attention like he should have gotten for that whole idea. But then when Sherry came along, of course, I think she might have been the one that named it the South Knoll. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
But anyway, she was the first one to really investigate the South Knoll. But she didn't find anybody over there. And in fact, Larry Hancock, after I posted that I was going to be on your show, Larry Hancock on Facebook, Larry Hancock, the JFK assassination researcher, posted in that thread, under that thread, that he and Sherry had talked about this before she died, that they had posited maybe there's somebody over there shooting from a vehicle. But they didn't have proof of that.
Right.
But so I feel like I found proof that there was a vehicle over there someone was shooting from.
We're gonna get into that.
Okay. So anyway, so the North Knoll is the grassy knoll, and that's where most people have thought for decades the shots came from.
You're right. Most of the witnesses were
Front
running
shots.
towards there.
Fronting shots.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see.
So, okay, so Sherry Fiester comes up. So basically she came up, she said that, there's a shot, then there's concealment and distraction, and then the escape, because the sniper always needs an escape route, and he also needs concealment. That's very important.
That's right. And
From
distraction.
snipers that I've talked to, they've always said that those are the things that they look for when they're scoping an area out. So a lot of people think, the people that claim the shot came from the triple underpass, explain why that's not plausible, because there's no concealment over there.
Exactly. I mean, for quite a few years, you'll have people saying there was somebody up there, shooting over the banister, shooting between the balustrades,
Right.
Those, I don't know, I don't know what to say.
I know what you mean. There's just no
You know what I'm
concealment
saying?
over
Balustrades. Okay, so that there was somebody like out in the open, and that makes absolutely no sense to me, because I believe this was a coup d'etat,
there.
and you're not going to risk your coup d'etat to having somebody right out in the open, even if they're around the corner a little bit, where that the south end of the triple underpass where it curves around to the electrical box.
Sure.
Somebody could easily drive into or walk into that terminal annex parking lot.
Yeah.
And stumble across them, or even if they were hidden while they were if they were laying down, shooting between the balustrades or something, they, when they got up to leave, they would have been crouched down and, crawling away to get to the escape vehicle, and someone could have easily seen them, you're not going to risk that. So that's why I think my theory about the ZipVan is so perfect.
Well, let's get into that. So,
Absolute cover and concealment and escape.
right. And so now Sherry Fiester says that the wounds and the trajectory, the shot came from the South Knoll, the head shot she's talking about, and also the throat shot, right? Or no?
No, she thought the throat shot
Okay.
came from the grassy knoll. She
Okay,
believed
okay.
shots from the back, the front, and this is where I disagree with her. And also
Right.
Alex Heidel, is it Alex? Alec Heidel. He's the guy that has his own South Knoll theory that he came
Yeah.
out video, which is really excellent. He's done incredible work, and I use his work a lot to, formulate my own.
Right.
So well, go ahead.
Well, no, so from Sherry's work, how did you get to, so from her work, you identified that, yeah, the shot probably came from the South Knoll, but then how did you get to identify where you think the shot came from with the ZipVan? How did that come all about?
Oh, well, just because I was so interested in the photo and film record, I knew there were only two pieces of the photo and film record from the assassination that captured the South Knoll, and that was just this fleeting 1 or 2 seconds from the couch film and the Consolate photo, which was, it turns out, like 7 to 15 seconds after Couch shot his video of his fleeting 1 or 2 seconds of the South Knoll. Okay, so what I found was this boxy van over there under tree number 2, which I then, just doing research, I found it couldn't have been a van used by the general public. It wasn't like a Ford Econoline or a Volkswagen Beetle bus, because those are long and narrow, those vehicles of the era that the general public used. It was a big boxy postal van, which in 1963 they used these things called Studebaker zip vans, and they look a lot like the current postal vans that the post office uses. They have a roll-up back door. It's kind of like a roll-up desk, rolls up into the ceiling of the van. It has a wide open floor plan, has a giant windscreen in the front, giant windshield, and a wide open floor plan. So
So picture number 1, if Bill brings up picture number 1 on the screen, is that the first time that you noticed? Was that a reflection that you noticed over there?
No, I put that, this picture was actually taken probably this was taken the day after. Here it is.
Okay.
This was taken the day after the assassination. The only reason I put this picture in there is to demonstrate how blinding the sun can be when you're looking in that direction.
Okay.
And this was not the same day of the assassination, but it was the only picture I could find online that captured that. And that's another thing that was perfect about this is this was, the assassination happened at 12:30, and basically the noonday sun was coming in this giant windscreen of the front of the zip van and streaming out the back of the zip van, where they had a little tiny door that I believe they cut in
Okay.
order to shoot out of, like a la the Beltway sniper of 2002.
Right.
Know about
Right.
that guy that shot out of the back of the Chevy, laid in the trunk of the Chevy, and they jerry-rigged the license, I believe it was the license plate holder, so that it would flop down, and then he shot out of this hole, this jerry-rigged hole, and then they would cover it back up again with the license plate. And he used a scope too, and he killed, I think it was 10 people and wounded 5.
Right.
Anyway, that was in 2002, around Washington, D.C. that happened. And so this is similar to that. I believe that this, well, you'll see pictures of it in a minute. There's a blinding white light coming from the back of this boxy zip van that I found over there. And I'm like, what is that? When I first saw it, first of all, I saw this boxy van. I'm like, well, it has to be a postal van, I figured out. It has to be one of these Studebaker zip vans. I started finding pictures of those, what they look like. And And then I'm like, what is this blinding white light coming from the back door of this thing? It was backed up to the edge of Dealey Plaza, right up to the fence line there.
And that would be picture 16, I believe, if we bring up 16. That's the zip van. It shows the zip van and it shows the
would work.
the contrast with the brightness.
Yeah.
Really bring that up, number 16.
Yeah, that captures it. And in fact, this is this even captures, you can see his head. Okay, so what's happening is I have a lot of other pictures too that capture this. This is I darkened it down so you can see it better. And I adjusted the contrast and the lighting and so forth. But you can see just in other pictures I have before I adjusted the contrast and brightness, all you could see with this was this blinding white rectangle of light. And at first I thought, oh, what is that? You know, is that the license plate? Is there is that the reflection off of a license plate? This is my thinking pattern when I first was coming up with this, seeing
And that would be
that thing
picture 17, Bill, if you bring up 17, right? That's where the dark black rectangular.
Let me see. Right, okay. Excellent, okay. And so you can see that bright white light there. In fact, you can see the head a little bit there. There might be another picture that is even
Pick
better.
18.
Let's see.
Bring up 18, Billy.
That's not quite it either. Let's see. Well, anyway, I guess the best one we have to demonstrate that would be 17 probably.
Okay.
All right, so but there are other ones where you don't in this picture you see the bright white rectangle, and then you also, because I adjusted the brightness and the contrast and so forth, you can see a very faint gray round circle there in that rectangle. Okay, but before I adjusted it, you couldn't see anything but a bright white glare. I mean, just blinding glare coming out of that. And I realized it couldn't be the license plate because the zip van was facing north. It was facing away from the sun. So this was my thought process. This can't be a license plate with a reflection. Okay, and not only was it facing north, it was under a tree, which provided a little bit of shade. And but anyway, then I kept adjusting it, and then I saw this. You can see this round circle there when you really blow it up, and I believe that is the sniper's head. And when you reverse it on negative, you can see it as well.
Wow.
So, and he's not right in the center of the rectangle. He's kind of shifted off to our right. His would be his left. Because, and I believe he's shifted to the left a little bit in that rectangle, because he's off to the left because he's shooting to the right up Elm Street. You see what I'm saying?
Right, and he would be in a prone position,
right,
on the floor, on his stomach, and the
with a
jerry rig, basically like you talked about the DC snipers.
Right, exactly like that.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to announce to everybody that the That's Enough Out of You podcast is proud that we're going to sponsor the JFK Lancers November in Dallas conference. It's going to be November 21st through November 23rd at the Fairmont in Dallas, Texas. A lot of great speakers, researchers on the JFK assassination. And if you use our podcast promo, the That's Enough Out of You podcast promo code JFK10, you get 10% off the ticket. That's promo code JFK10. And you can find the tickets at the website assassinationconference.com. And a lot of great speakers. Paul Abbott is going to be there. A lot that we had on our show. Paul Abbott, Paul Blow, Johnny Kearns, Walter Herbst, Jeff Meek, Linda Giovanni Zambanini, who's coming up on our show. And a lot of other great researchers, and it's about the JFK assassination. So again, we're proud to promote this event. It's November 21st through November 23rd at the Fairmont in Dallas, Texas. The website is assassinationconference.com. And That's Enough Out of You promo code is JFK10, and you get 10% off the ticket. So it's definitely going to be worth it. And I hope people are going to come out and enjoy the event. Unfortunately, Bill and I can't make it, but I know it's going to be a great event because the speakers are tremendous. So any other information that you want, you can message me and I could get that for you, or I could put you in contact with somebody who can answer the questions for you. Again, thank you, everybody.
So anyway, that's how that all evolved. I mean, it was a long thought process of figuring out, what am I looking at here? What is that thing over there? And what is that bright white light? And then just playing with scads of pictures that I did screen grabs of from the couch film and adjusting the contrast and the brightness and things in a photo editor so I could bring out these other details. So, and then beyond the couch film then, I looked at the Cancellara photo, their Frank Cancellara photo that captured the South Knoll. And in that photo, you can see all 4 trees, tree 1, 2, 3, and 4. And under tree number 2, the ZipVan is gone. And that is just 7 to 15 seconds later, according to Randy Owens' research.
Okay, that would be picture number 6. Billy, bring up picture number 6. And that shows
Oh, I don't,
the
No,
zip van
no.
leaving the parking lot, and then the zip van is gone seconds later. You have it circled there in
no,
picture number.
I don't see the Cancellara photo here. Cancellara photo. Where is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, this might be the couch screen, but it's it says
Let's see.
but you have it circled there where the zip van is gone seconds later. Picture number 6.
Yeah, that is the couch film, but it's farther down Elm Street.
Okay.
Than when he panned across rapidly. Okay, he kept riding on down Elm Street in the car he was in. And finally, down by the triple underpass, he jumped out and then he ran back up toward the Texas School Book Depository and filmed. But yeah, you can see from this couch frame here, which is farther down Elm Street than the earlier ones, that zip van is gone. And that may be the zip van in the distance leaving the parking lot there. That there's a boxy thing that looks like it has a black
Right.
rectangle at the top. It's kind of like going away. It looks like it's, getting smaller than it was when it was under tree number 2. So I'm just kind of guessing that might be the zip van going away. Okay, but it's definitely gone from under tree number 2 because it was very apparent in the earlier couch frames. There was this big boxy van under tree number 2.
And that's interesting that he would be leaving so quick.
Yeah,
Because
that's
this is when everything is going on.
right. Okay, now, and this brings me to another part of my theory is, if say this was a normal postal worker, just decided he'd go sit in his van and have a sandwich for lunch, on his break, and he just happened to be backed up to the South Knoll fence line. But anyway, he's sitting there in his postal van eating a sandwich, and then all hell breaks loose because when this happened, we have no sound record of the assassination, but people said it was like a cacophony of, 1,000 voices yelling out of key. And there were sirens going off, all these police motorcycles, all these Secret Service cars and so forth. They all had sirens and they were all going off. It was not a silent event like we kind of are led to believe from the photo and film record that we have. So if you heard all this going on, you'd be thinking what happened, plus the sounds of the shots, okay? If this was an innocent postal worker, he would have looked in his rearview mirror and seen all these people rushing up the north grassy knoll and wondered what the heck's going on. And if you were a normal person, you would get out and look to see what the heck was going on. But
Right.
but no,
No,
that thing is out of there.
It's
like
gone.
out of hell in 7 to 15 seconds. I mean, it could have been sooner, but that's where that's the moment that the Cancellara photo captures is 7 to 15 seconds later. We might have seen, too bad we don't have a film record of him driving off, but We don't really. But we know he left really, really fast, and that's highly suspect in my mind.
Right, and we're gonna, in a little bit, we're gonna talk about the escape route.
Yes,
And because again, that's one of the important
Yeah.
things the sniper looks for in pinpointing a location is
Yeah.
to have a good escape route. But
oh, another thing I wanted to point out was, I have a photo of like a sundial here. 1, 2, 3, let's see, 4, 8. Photo 13.
okay,
There's a sundial. That's just to show you, there are these websites where you can put in the time and the location and the year and the date, and it will spit out exactly where the sun was in the sky.
okay,
Okay.
that's picture
So
13.
that's what this sundial overlay is on the Dealey Plaza map. And you can see that basically it's just a little bit further to the west from the ZipVan. I mean, it's basically it's practically noon for the ZipVan. So that light, that noontime sun or 12:30 sun is streaming in that giant front window and streaming through the ZipVan because it had a wide open floor plan and out that opening in the back where he's shooting out.
Right,
So, and the thing is that this also prevented people from looking in that direction, and that was the
Mhm.
whole point of the first photo that showed the sun in the sky.
right.
It wasn't taken on the 22nd, it was taken on the 23rd, but it was the closest thing I could find to represent that. So,
Now, talk about what Clint Hill said about the metallic sound.
oh my
That's
goodness.
very important.
Well, this just blew me away when I found this. Hold on, I have it here. Flint Hill. Okay. This is just amazing. I don't know what led me to do it, but I was reading Clint Hill's Warren Commission testimony not that long ago. And Arlen Specter was questioning him. And he says, and I have it here. Do you mind if I read some?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So Specter says, where did the first shot come from, Mr. Hill? And he said, right rear. And then that could be the back shot for all we know. Okay. And then it's the shot into JFK's back, I mean. And then Mr. Specter, and did you have a reaction or impression as to the source of the point of origin of the second shot that you described? Mr. Hill said, it was right, but I can't say for sure that it was rear because when I mounted the car, it had a different sound, first of all, than the first sound that I heard. The second one had almost a double sound, as though you were standing against something metal and firing into it, and you hear both the sound of the gun going off and the sound of the cartridge hitting the metal place.
Wow.
This just blew me away. And then he goes on, he says, okay, the metal place, which could have been caused probably by the hard surface of the head. And I'm like, I'm laughing at this. Okay,
Yeah.
right, yeah, right, Clint.
Okay.
JFK's
Sure.
head is made out of metal. But then he goes on and says, but I'm not sure what that is that caused it. And then Specter says, are you describing this double sound with respect to what you heard on the occasion of the second shot? He said, the second shot that I heard, yes, sir. So, okay, so what I believe that is
Right, go ahead.
I think that's confirmation of, the shooter inside the ZipVan with using a suppressor so that the sound wasn't very loud inside the van, but he still
Right.
heard something. And then the cartridge ejecting and hitting the wall of the ZipVan. Because what else would cause this rapid double sound? And it sounded like something metal hitting something metal.
Inside a metal place.
Inside a metal place. Okay, this whole metal thing is just,
It's a zip van.
I mean, it's golden, really. This is
Yeah.
a golden quote here.
Wow.
And I think it explains a lot. So,
That's amazing.
it is. So, oh, the other thing is, when you use a suppressor, I was reading that it when you hear the sound of the suppressor, it doesn't make much of a sound, but it does make a sound. But it throws the sound to the opposite direction. So that it sounds like it's coming from opposite where it's coming from. So it would sound like it's coming from the grassy knoll. Whereas was coming from the south knoll inside the ZipVan.
Right. In Jim Hogan's book Spooks, he mentions that he's surprised that more people didn't when they were talking about Mitchell Warbel, that people didn't put that together with the JFK assassination because he was designing weapons like that. And he was the CIA's main weapon supplier.
Yes, he was. He was very involved in Vietnam, supplying
Very involved
for snipers.
in what
Vietnam.
he had his own farm like Allen Dulles. He even named it the farm.
Oh yeah, Powder Springs. Are you talking about in Georgia?
Yes, and
Powder
we're gonna go in when we
Georgia.
do the episode on Warbel.
In
I'm gonna
fact,
go into all of that.
They call him the man from Powder Springs.
Yes.
He was very, and then there was, I think even he said he might have been in Dealey Plaza or hinted that he was in Dealey.
Well,
Plaza.
he in the book
Oh.
with he and Fonzie in the last investigation, he was an interview with Fonzie, and where Bell was known to be a heavy drinker, and when he was drinking, he gets a little bit loose with the lips, and he mentioned something about knowing Ruby, and then he backed away real quick, and Fonzie never really could get any more because he really went into a drunken stupor after that. But there is recordings of that conversations with Warbel, and very interesting. And Warbel, I mean, there were some really, interesting characters that were known to be at the farm, including like Frank Sturgis and Lucien Conine. And there was a cast of characters in and out of there. And actually, we'll talk about that in the episode. I don't want to get into too much of that, but it does tie into this.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Well, and on top of the fact that if there was a shot with a suppressor, it would throw the sound to the grassy knoll on the opposite side.
Right.
On top of that, I believe there was an explosive device over there. Because it was a really loud bang that many people commented was louder than any of the other shots, which tells me it wasn't just a shot from the grassy knoll, the north grassy knoll. It was probably some sort of explosive device, like, I don't know, kind of like a cherry bomb or a flashbang, or I don't know what they used, but they probably had something, and some device that did this. And the other thing was, so many people commented that there was smoke coming out from under the trees.
Yes.
So whenever you would, and there are actually pictures of this. There are photos and film of this smoke coming from under the trees.
Right.
Along the grassy knoll.
Yeah.
Down near the triple underpass. And people say, oh, don't be ridiculous. What do you think? They were using muskets from the 1700s? Modern day guns don't make that much smoke. Well, that's right. Modern day guns don't make that much smoke, but explosive devices that if you draw people's attention to someplace, would make a lot of smoke.
And the interesting thing about that is the one motorcycle cop that ran up the knoll, I believe was his name Marshall Smith, I believe. And he ran into someone who pulled out Secret Service credentials.
Right.
And we know that there was no Secret Service people on the ground. So that guy was an imposter, and there was many witnesses of imposters.
Right. And he commented that when he pulled out his badge and showed it to him, that his hands were dirty like a mechanic's hands.
Mechanic hands, yeah.
Right. And I thought that was very interesting.
And that's interesting. If the whole grassy knoll thing is a distraction, it makes sense to put an imposter Secret Service there, because when you get everybody running towards the knoll, so the South Knoll shooter gets away, the Secret Service man is there to put out his identification. Nothing to see here. We got this under control, and that's that. So it fits into the theory.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So,
is there anything else? Because I wanted to talk about the trajectory cone too.
Okay, yeah. Sherry came up with, can you pull up
that'll be picture 23, right? 23, I believe.
Yeah, right, 23. It's
Billy, bring up 23.
Lavender. This is Sherry's work from her website. And since there was such a huge blowout in the back of JFK's head, you know, the size of an orange, basically, and many people commented about this at Parkland and at Bethesda. You know, it wasn't just one point in his right upper forehead in the hairline where it was one point that where it went in there, where it entered, but it blew out this huge hole in the back. So because of this huge hole in the back, it wasn't just like you could go from one pinpoint to another pinpoint and then carry that line back to the South Knoll. It created a trajectory cone of pinpoints when you calculated it out, and it created this, it was about 26 degrees, where the shooter could have been within that trajectory cone over there. Okay, and in fact, if you pull that up and enlarge it, you can see the trees are detailed on that graphic. Okay, and
Right.
you can see the end of the triple underpassing, and you can see tree number 1, tree number 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and my ZipVan is under tree number 2, and that lies smack in the middle of Sherry's trajectory cone. Well, what a coincidence.
Wow.
I think that was planned out like that, but it is kind of interesting. It was right in the middle of the trajectory cone. He had the perfect shot. So, because the other thing is when the limo was coming down Elm Street, you know, we have that optical illusion that it's going straight down Elm, but it's actually pointed toward Commerce Street, the nose of it. On top of that, at the time of the headshot, his head was turned to the left 26 degrees and tilted down 12 degrees. So that's how when he got hit in the head in the right, like, temple area,
Right temple, right.
in the hairline, I believe it was. She describes it was like when you're playing billiards and you hit a cue ball against a billiard ball on the left side, it throws it violently to the right. Well, that's exactly what happened to JFK's head, back into back into the
Back
left.
into the left, yeah.
Into the left, right. So to the anatomical left, yeah.
Right.
To our right, if you're
Yeah, to our right, to the left.
but
Right.
the famous back into the left
Back
from
into the left.
the JFK movie,
Yep.
right?
So now, is there anything before we get to the exit?
You could go ahead and do that.
Let's talk about that, Billy. Bring up, I believe it's picture 14. It'll be the traffic route, the exit, right?
Right. And this is an important part of, you know, like Brian Edwards. Sherry worked a lot spoke a lot with Brian Edwards, who was a sniper for the Kansas State Police. And he's done a lot of videos on YouTube about the assassination and about the where he thought the snipers were and what snipers do, and, you know, their rules basically of cover and escape and distraction. And so this definitely shows that they had 2 escape routes here. On one, this building you see here with the yellow arrows going around it is the
Right.
Annex building, which was the United States Postal Service, the FBI, I think the CIA may have had offices in there too. And it wasn't just the Postal Service with post office boxes. But anyway, so the ZipVan, I just made a little graphic of a ZipVan there and showed that it could come out on the left-hand side of the building or the right-hand side of the building. The left-hand side is I always get these mixed up, east and west. No, it was north. The left-hand side of the building is the north side of the building, and it had like a little guard booth in the middle of it, and it's still there. So there may have been somebody guarding that exit, but they could have gone out that exit, or they could have gone on around the building. You could see from aerial photographs taken at the time by Jerry Hayblock, I believe, was flying over in a helicopter, and he he and possibly Harry as well, his brother, were taking aerial photographs of Dealey Plaza that day, later that day. And you could look down and you can see that there were two ways to get out of that parking lot. So, and then they would have come out on Houston Street. And no matter which exit they took, they would have come out on Houston Street, and then they could have taken a right. There was a traffic jam on the left on Commerce Street. So if they couldn't go left, that was totally blocked off. That's why Teg was out of his car and he got shot by that fragment.
Right, hit the curb.
Concrete from the curb. Yeah, he was,
Yeah.
because of the traffic jam. And who knows about that traffic jam? That's kind of curious to me. But anyway, so I believe they would have gone right. And then as soon as they went right, they would go not very far and they would be going over the Trinity River Bridge into Oak Cliff. And then they could have just disappeared. And then there are highway connections over there. They could have gotten on a highway and gotten out of town. Or
Right.
found a place to hide the ZipVan, who knows
Wow.
where they went. But they had a way to get out, and two easy ways to get out.
We will be right back. Hey, Sean, I want to make sure that everybody knows about our Patreon. I know we mention it every once in a while on the show, but really important that people check out our Patreon. If you go to Patreon and search for That's Enough Out of You, or just click on the link in the description, you'll find we do an extra episode every week called The Speakeasy, and it's really usually just Sean and I kind of talking about the day's events, current events, and things like that. But a lot of exciting things. I mean, I know, Sean, you're constantly putting articles up there on our Patreon.
Yeah, and sometimes, Bill, we do bring on special guests. We had Dave Whelan on, we had Scranton Dave, and every now and then we bring Patreon members on. We've had different members, Scott Alfieri, Michael Pilch, Dan Hankey was on. So, there's an opportunity there if you want to come on the show with us. So there's a lot of things we're doing. Like you mentioned, Bill, the articles. I put articles up on a free site, but I also put articles on Patreon that's not available on the free site. We have a lot of times I put up future intel about guests that we have coming up and stuff that we have coming up on the podcast. And, we created a great community there, Bill. There's a lot of chat goes on there. There's a community chat and a lot of the comments back and forth. Just the Patreon members always have great insight. So it's a community, Bill, and it's an opportunity for people to join for a really good price, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat it. You can certainly become a free member if you want to. There's also tiered levels with subscription amounts, and just for $1 that gets you everything. I mean, $1 gets you everything, including our weekly show. There's other tiers. I think, Sean, what is there? A $3 tier?
$3, there's a $5, there's a $10. I mean, and there's a $50 if people could afford to give $50.
Yeah, I mean, totally up to you. Once you join, you can make that decision, and certainly, there's no commitment. I mean, you could join for a month or 2 months or whatever you want, and then you can switch your subscription around. Totally up to you. I mean, that's, people love Patreon for that reason. It really is. It makes it easy. It's kind of, however you want to do it, however you want to join. And we certainly appreciate anybody who joins our Patreon and supports the show, because we definitely, Sean, we're not getting rich off of this podcast, that's for sure. But we definitely, appreciate any support that we get from our listeners.
And, we also have our merchandise store. If people want to check out, we have the shirt that I have on now. We have mugs up there. We have cups, hats, anything you can do to help the podcast grow. We also have a bookshop up there, Bill, where all the authors that we have on our podcast, we have their books up. And it supports local bookstores, Bill. The money goes to local bookstores, a little bit to us, and then to the publisher and to the author. So it's a real good opportunity instead of buying Amazon and making
supporting billionaires.
Right, sure. And as far as Patreon, one last thing, Bill, if you want to join as a free member, we do put some stuff up there for the free members, and then if you like it and you want to upgrade, you can do that.
Absolutely. So definitely check out our Patreon. Like I said, there's a link in the description to our Patreon, or you can just go to Patreon and search for That's Enough Out of You and look for our logo, and just fill in the information and you can join. All right. That's it, Sean. We appreciate all of our Patreon members, and we hope that you guys will consider checking it out if you haven't joined. Thank you. We will be right back. DK's Corner, now located at 201 Cherry Street in Jessup, Pennsylvania, is serving up the area's best tasting food at respectable prices. Known for our great cheesesteaks, DK's also has delicious breakfast sandwiches, specialty coffees, and catering 7 days a week. You'll love the wraps, soups, and pizza too. We're now open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit DK's Corner on Facebook to see our daily specials, and make sure to follow and like us while you're there. We offer local delivery to homes and businesses, takeout, or come and dine in our new restaurant in Jessup. Call or text DK's Corner at 570-209-0278, or hit us up on DoorDash. And we thank DK's Corner for sponsoring That's Enough Out of You.
So cover, concealment, and escape, and distraction,
Right.
all in one.
And that theory covers all of that.
Right. So then another thing is, I believe the throat shot also, and so does Alec Heidel, or is it Alex? Alec, I always get this mixed up. The guy that has the South Knoll videos, Alec Heidel.
And he's, of
That's his
course, using,
pseudonym.
right.
Right. And so anyway, I believe the throat shot also came from the South Knoll. And a lot of people say, well, that can't be. And well, when the doctors at Parkland went to do the trach, they looked in there momentarily. They opened him up a little bit more, and they looked in there and they could see that the projectile had gone in and there was a large hematoma that had developed, a pocket of blood that had developed, accumulated above the right lung. And it was causing a little bit of a mediastinal shift. That's where if you get air or blood in outside of your lungs, then it can put pressure on your lungs and then shift them leftward over to, for example, put pressure on your heart, and that can reduce your cardiac output. So they ended up putting in a chest tube. But the whole point is they looked in there and they could see that there was this pocket of blood above his right lung. Okay. But he didn't have a hole in his lung. They couldn't really find that he had a pneumothorax, but they put in a chest tube to drain the blood out to relieve the mediastinal shift. And anyway, when they looked in there, McClelland, I believe it was, documented this, and so did Perry, that he had what looked like a tangential wound of his trachea. What I'm trying to say is the bullet didn't go in one side of the trachea and come out the other, like drilling a hole through a pipe. Okay, that's not how it happened. What it did was it just kind of tangentially glanced the trachea and tore off like a rounded edge of it. Okay, and on the right lateral aspect of the trachea and anterior part of the trachea and lateral. And and it ended up above his right lung, whatever it was, whether it was a piece of glass from the windshield or whether it was the bullet that had fragmented and it was bullet fragments or it was an actual bullet. Nobody ever found it. But this brings me to my next topic is, I believe this is what Humes did in that hour or so that he had before the official autopsy, when he went in and hacked on JFK's head. And
Right.
And also we see, JFK had this very neat little throat wound, about a half an inch, and the size of a pencil eraser, when he first came into the ER, and they opened it up just about an inch, which is what you would do to put a trach in normally. And the next pictures we see of him is at Bethesda, and he has this giant gash across his neck that's like 3 inches or more wide, and it looks like Jack the Ripper cut him up. So, and that is not what Dr. Perry did in the ER. So I believe, that's an indication of what Humes did once the shipping casket arrived, and he had to go in and get the evidence out. They couldn't have that many shots. And I believe he probably used fluoroscopy, which is like a real-time 3D X-ray technique. That's been around since World War One. In fact, I have a picture. I'll have to send it to you. Maybe you can include it in with the picture. Fluoroscopy from 1917. This is right off of Wikipedia under the fluoroscopy article. They had this apparatus they strapped on their head that kind of looked like virtual reality goggles. It was this giant, like, X-ray box they strapped to their eyes.
Right.
And look down, and anyway, by utilizing that, and then it became more advanced in the 50s. I have a picture of it from in the 50s too. But in real time, then you can see where objects are, and objects could be a bullet, it could be metal, it could be glass. It could pick up all those things. So whether this was a glass fragment that went in there or a bullet fragment, I believe he was in there with some alligator forceps, which are these big, long forceps. You can get them all different lengths. You can get 6-inch ones or 8-inch ones, or I believe he probably used 12-inch alligator forceps, they're called alligator forceps because the end of them have these little teeth on the pinchers. So to better grab things with. So I believe he went in there. That's why he had to open that hole up bigger so he could dig around in there to get back in the right pleural cavity, where that where the bullet or the glass or whatever it was ended up. Okay. And he took it out. That's what I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Gerald Custer too said when he took x-rays that he saw a lot of fragments at like C3, C4, which is around the level of the Adam's apple, okay, in the spine. And little tiny fragments. He said there were a whole bunch of them. But guess what? That x-ray disappeared.
That's surprising.
Yeah. No, it's just such a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
All the best things in life disappear like that when it comes to the JFK assassination.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Right. So I do have a picture in speaking about the tracheal wound. I have a picture of how the
What number would that be?
would have entered and torn off the right anterior lateral curvature of the trachea and ended up over his right lung. If you could include that in there.
Is that, I believe that's
Number, let's see, 25, 24, 23, 22,
21?
22.
21?
Number 20, I think it's 22.
Okay. Yeah. Bring up 22, Billy.
That's right. So, and I have this picture here from Vincent De Maio's was like, the ultimate Quincy. He wrote this book called Gunshot Wounds. And I have a picture of a tangential wound in there, which is, you can get a tangential wound anywhere on your body, but it's like a has a ripping, torn look to it. And that would be the one before that, the slide before that. And this is how McClellan described the wound on the trachea. It wasn't, drilled straight through the trachea. It just glanced off it, and it was like a tangential wound. So it had a torn, ripped look. I have that in the notes under that, the other gift that I have about the trachea. So it came in on a little bit of an angle and just tore off the kind of the rounded corner of the trachea there. So
Interesting.
yeah. Think of anything else.
Is there anything that we missed on this that we didn't cover?
Oh, I would like to say, look, this is very interesting. There's a newspaper article I have in here by Earl Goals. He was a famous Dallas Morning News journalist. I think he's left Dallas Morning News now, but it's what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Number 12. South Knoll, unknown man seen by Ronald Fisher. You see that? It's just a newspaper.
I do, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I see it.
this fascinates me. Okay, so Ronald Fisher and his friend he worked with, I can't remember his first name now, Edwards, were near Tony Glover and Tina Towner on that curve there across from the at Elm and Houston, across from the Texas Book Depository. They were right near that corner,
Okay,
ending together. Okay, and in their Warren Commission testimony and FBI reports, they said that he looked up and he saw somebody up there in the sniper's window, in quote unquote Oswald's window. Okay, but he would never say that it was Oswald. And in this clipping, he talks about how David Bellin, the Warren Commissioner, counselor for the Warren Commission, I'm sorry, when he was questioning him, he was intimidating him, and he used that word intimidation. And he kept trying to get him to agree that the guy in the window had brown hair, and he would not do it. And he said, I had a fight almost in the interview room over the color of the man's hair, Fisher said.
wow,
He wanted me to tell him that the man was dark-headed and I wouldn't do it. Oswald's hair doesn't appear to me in the photographs to be as light as the man that I saw, Fisher said. And that's what Bellin was upset about. I see it now, but I didn't see it at the time. He didn't see that he was being pressured, is what he means. But thinking back on it, he's really upset by how he was pressured to try to change his testimony and to implicate Oswald. Anyway, I think they worked at the county clerk's office or the recorder's office, those two guys. And they were just on their lunch break, they were standing right across from where they worked, basically.
wow,
Anyway, but the important part is, he also mentioned in his Warren Commission testimony and I think his FBI report too, that when he looked up and he saw this man in the window, and the man that wasn't Oswald, okay,
mhm,
and that he was absolutely transfixed. Okay, so Earl Goals quotes him. He says, I gazed at him a little bit because he seemed so transfixed in the way he was sitting, Fisher said. He was so still, like he was heavily concentrating on something, or like he was asleep sitting up. And then
wow,
Fisher said the man's quote seemed transfixed on the triple underpass at a time when most people were looking the other way for the motorcade. I think that is very, very telling. And he also, it was either in his Warren, it's not here in this report, in this newspaper article, but it was either in his Warren Commission testimony and or his FBI report, that the man had his head turned so that he could see just a little bit of his right cheek. Okay, so he was not looking straight down Elm Street, in other words. He was
right,
he was turned toward the end of the triple underpass so
wow,
that he could see his right cheek. You know, because had he been looking straight down Elm Street, you know, you wouldn't have seen his right cheek.
sure,
Part of
sure.
his right cheek. So I think that's very telling. So he
So
would have, yeah, go ahead.
there's one more thing. I want to get to Bernardo De Torres, if we could.
Oh my
But
gosh, yeah.
is
I
there
don't have
anything,
pictures of him.
do you want to save that for another time? Because we're over an hour now.
Okay, well, maybe I could just kind of quickly tell the story, but without pictures, because I don't have a way to upload pictures now.
Well, you sent them to me though. I could tell Billy to edit them in.
Okay, all right.
You want to do that? Let me bring them up. Go ahead. You
I can
start telling the
tell the
story.
story. Okay, well, every time there's a new version of the Zapruder film that comes out, this is like a major find of mine. I'm always tapping my space bar and looking at the people along the way, see if I see any new people I can identify or, you know, get better pictures of, make clearer versions of the Zapruder film from the people standing along Elm Street. Anyway, so, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe? It was around 2016, because I think that's when I have their metadated 2016, I believe, on my photos. I was watching this new version of the Zapruder film that came out that had been put up by Sam Holland. No, Max Holland is his name, who I cannot stand. Well, I believe he's a CIA shill. Anyway, he put up this new version, which looked like Technicolor. I don't know how he made it. I don't have a clue, but the colors were really crisp and clear and beautiful. And so I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I'm tapping my space bar, and I think this may have been before I knew you could turn down the speed on YouTube. But anyway, I'm tapping my space bar and I'm just looking at everybody, and all of a sudden I see this black thing come around the corner, like from the peristyle, up by the reflecting pool. I see just this figure kind of in a black suit or something coming around the corner there by there's a pyracantha bush right there on that corner by where you come down the sidewalk by the reflecting pool by the peristyle, and you kind of go out this little doorway, opening. There's not a door there, but an opening. You take down 2 or 3 little steps, and then you're on this concrete sidewalk there, and it's around where he would have exited, right around where Pierce Allman and Terrence Ford were standing. And Rosie, you can see in versions of the Martin film, looking toward Elm Street, looking toward the limo as it's coming around the corner and down Elm Street. You can see Rosie, you can see him running down the peristyle sidewalk, and then taking the 2 little steps down, or 2 or 3 steps down, and then turning left. And Rosie Willis has run right in front of him, and then the limo goes right past him. And okay, so that's from the view of the Martin film. Okay, but back to the Zapruder film. So I see this black figure. I'm like, what is that? I've never seen that before. And okay, the key thing is right there where he came out, Croft is standing, Earl Croft, who took the Croft photos. And Croft is wearing a black suit and has a black hat. And so there you've got this black figure kind of coming behind him. All of a sudden I see 2 little, I'm like tapping my space bar, and I see these 2 little white dots as I stopped it right over Earl Croft's hat. I'm like, what is that? What are those 2 little white dots? And what is that black thing behind him? I wasn't even sure it was a person yet. Okay, so there are these 2 little white dots. I kept tapping, and the white dots moved, and all of a sudden they dropped down, and then his head dropped down, and it is a photographer with a twin lens reflex camera. And if you don't know anything about those, they have 2 lenses. That's why they're called twin lens reflex. And it has a hood on the top, and you can open the hood up and look right down in it. If you have the sun in your eyes, for example, you can put your head right down in the hood and look down into the camera, and the reflection of the the picture you're looking at comes up to you. And anyway, so this was a man with a camera in a black suit. And Bernardo De Torres has said that, and told Fonzie, I believe it was, that he was in Dealey Plaza and he took photos of the assassination, and he put them in a safety deposit box. And he died a few years back. I have it in my bookmarks here, maybe 2016 or something.
And he infiltrated the Garrison investigation too.
Bernardo De Torres, born in 34 in Havana, died in Miami in 2018. Okay. Anyway, so he was, and from his draft cards, or maybe it's from HSCA information. I guess it wouldn't have been a World War II draft card. He wasn't old enough. But somewhere it's documented in his FBI reports or HSCA that his height and weight and hair color and so forth and body habitus, and he was tall and thin. He was like 6'1" to 6'2", if I remember correctly. It was at least 6 foot, and he was very tall and thin. and had dark brown hair. And that's the exact description of the mystery man, the mystery TLR photographer. And I believe that is Bernardo De Torres. And he was shooting straight down. She was right behind Rosie Willis, and he was shooting straight down Elm Street. And I kept this to myself for the longest time. And then I showed Alex Harris, my little photo buddy and researcher. He's incredible. Anyway, I shared that with him. I shared it with a couple other people. Greg Wagner, I think, was one of them over the years. And then I went to my very first Lancer conference last year, and Broden was out there in the atrium with his setup selling, or in the lobby selling his books. And I went out there kind of at the end or before a session started, when everybody else had gone back inside and there was nobody else out there. And I took my laptop out there and I said, hey, I want to show you something. And I pulled up this picture, the best picture I had, or maybe I showed him the video first. And I'm saying, do you see this guy? And he gets his head, he looked at the picture and he says, oh, that's Croft. Like, I mean, he kind of said it like, he thought I was really stupid. Because he didn't know me from Adam, I'm sure.
Right.
And because I've never really spoken with him before or met him. That was the first time ever. And anyway, he was like, oh, that's Croft. And I'm like, no, I know exactly who Croft is. Who's that? This guy. I said, not that guy, this guy.
Right.
And then he gets his face all the way down into my laptop screen. I mean, it was so funny. He's like looking at it, and he was there for quite a few seconds. And he's like, and then he was like thrown back almost like, you know, he had been shot from the grassy knoll.
Right.
Like the Zapruder film. I was like that. You know, he was just shocked, and he was speechless. And I said, have you ever seen that guy before? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh my God. Broden, you know, just told me that he's never seen this guy before. So it's a new photographer nobody's seen before.
Wow.
I told him I believe it's Bernardo De Torres because he said he was there. So.
Well, now, Billy, bring up the second batch of emails that I sent you and bring up picture number 2. And you can see that somebody went through the trouble
Yes.
of trying to cover up this person's identity.
Right.
Because you could see in picture number 2, if you bring up pictures in concession, bring them up 2, 3, 4, and 6, and you can see this like green blob. Is that how you would describe it, Linda? It's really weird where
Yes.
it's covering this person, and it's almost like the person turns into
A bush. It's like a living.
So they
Okay. Well, first of all, the very first time I saw this guy, it was on this incredibly Technicolor clear Max Holland video, okay, of the Zapruder film. And he didn't have any, he wasn't being greened out by anything, okay? And I have a really nice clear picture of him with his head bent all the way over the viewfinder, and you can see his brown hair, and you can see his black suit, and you can see he's, you know, holding something. He has his hands on each side of this camera, okay? And then that was 2016. I'm pretty sure that's what my metadata shows. I can look it up again, but and then over the years, every time I find a new or even an old Zapruder film, you know, online, I will look at it. I will look for him. And in recent years since then, they've been covering up his identity. Now, I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but I have total proof of this, uncontestable proof, that there's somebody, and who would that be? What is covering up his head, his face, his sometimes his body, his torso, sometimes all the way down to his legs, sometimes all the way down to his feet. He turns into a living bush, basically, with green photo editing, green paint, you know. And in the most recent one, a National Geographic 2025 video, I can't remember the name of the documentary, but it's got the Zapruder film in there. He has a perfectly round circle over his head. It's like somebody took a compass and made a perfectly round circle over his head and face. Okay, but then I have other versions of the Zapruder film I've found since then, where there's a perfect cube over his face, a green cube. Then I have others where there's an irregular blob over his face. It almost looks like the okay, here's the thing. They make it look almost like the pyracantha bush, like grew down over his face.
Yeah, he's basically a plant in picture
Yeah.
number 6.
And that he's right like in front of that pyracantha bush or next to it. So, and it has a nice tight head on top of it, of foliage normally. And I have a picture of what the pyracantha bush there on that corner looks like when there aren't people around it before the motorcade came. It was captured in the Zapruder film for a few frames, but I have a nice clear version of it. So you can see what that plant looks like before they made it grow over his head. So who would do that? Well, 3 initials, CIA.
Sure.
Who
Because De
else would
Torres
do that?
ties to him.
What's that?
Because Bernardo De Torres ties to the Cuban exiles, to the
Absolutely.
CIA.
Absolutely. And I think somehow they got wind of this and they started covering him up,
Wow.
maybe, I don't know exactly when it happened, but Alex, I told Alex Harris about this. And in fact, he made me a little animated GIF of him coming around the corner and slowed it down for me. So you could see him better, my TLR photographer. And he went on quick hits with Doug Campbell and Rob Clark one night, I don't know, a couple years ago. And this is after I had shared it with Alec. And I didn't tell him not to share it with anybody else, I don't think. So anyway, he said, well, Linda Zambanini, she does some really good work, and she's doing some really good work in identifying. In fact, she found this new photographer in Dealey Plaza. And they said, really? And so he pulled up my picture that he had on his phone or whatever and showed them. And they're like, wow. So who knows? Maybe somebody was listening in and heard that and they're like, oh, somebody knows about this, might be Bernardo De Torres now.
Wow.
But that's the only way that got out. Got out on the airwaves before I told Groden about it, basically.
Well, it's clear they're covering up whoever's identity it is. Somebody doesn't want that out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's clear as day in the pictures.
It is amazing.
But that's fascinating stuff. So, Linda, we've been going over an hour. I know we kept you a little bit longer here, but this is fascinating stuff. And there's more I want to get into. So I hope you come back another time and we could talk more.
Thank you very much.
But is there anything else that you want to cover? Do you want to? So I think we summarized the South Knoll theory pretty good. I think it's going to tie in when I do my Mitchell Warbel episode.
Yep.
People are going to see that, he's supplying weapons to the CIA. The suppressor really fits into everything. And like you said about that explosion and the distraction. And,
Yeah.
if you just study how a sniper operates, shot, concealment, escape route,
Right.
distraction, like everything fits.
Oh, and high ground. That is another thing that Brian, is it Brian Edwards? Is that his name?
Brian Edwards, yeah.
I always get him confused with another guy. So the sniper, who Sherry talked to, about this too. And that was one of the things on his list for a sniper, important things, was high ground. And that's what you
High
get with
ground.
South Knoll.
Right.
Much
Sure.
higher. It's much higher than the grassy knoll.
Grassy knoll, sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, plus another thing I wanted to say about the ZipVan over there is, who would suspect, you have all these spectators lined up, it's like, wouldn't people have noticed this van over there and it all of a sudden left? Well, you have a lot of things to divert your attention from that, first of all. And secondly, nobody's going to pay any attention to USPS postal van
No, it's hiding in plain
USPS
sight.
postal parking lot.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
like
In
the main
lot.
parking lot for all of, the postal service in Dallas,
Right, that's perfect.
full of postal vans, or it could be full of postal vans, so you're not gonna pay any attention to it. So it was the
Right,
perfect camouflage.
hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, so this has been fascinating. It really has. So thank you for coming on, and hopefully you'll come back.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I just love your guys' shows, your shows, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, just stay on the line, Linda. We're just going to say goodnight to everybody, and hope you enjoyed this.
Okay, thank you.
That's Enough Out of You podcast is executive produced and written by Bill Rader and Sean Kane and edited by Bill Rader. The That's Enough Out of You podcast and logo are exclusive property of Bags of Chicken, LLC. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or accounts of this podcast without the express written consent of Bags of Chicken, LLC is prohibited. So don't even try it.